Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Deandra. Today I'm going to tell you how I got a perfect listening score in the JLPT N2 exam. I first took the exam in 2017 and failed by 2 marks. Then I took it again in 2019 and got a perfect listening score and a pitiful reading score, which makes sense. Listening is my best skill, reading is my worst skill. I thought I would tell you the things that I did to improve my overall listening skills as well as prepare for the exam specifically. Let's go. There are so many different types of listening resources out there. You can use dramas, movies, TV shows, podcasts, CDs. I personally used YouTube and music to enjoy the process of learning. I lived in Japan before my first JLPT exam, so I listened in on conversations, I made Japanese friends, I spoke to my classmates and my teachers in Japanese. I went out and talked to strangers at bars and clubs and had a great time. The second time I took the exam, I was in South Korea, so it goes to show that you don't have to live in the country or a country where your target language is spoken. You definitely do need to put the work in and get native resources though. Closer to the exam, I started watching YouTube videos on 1.25 times the speed, and I started listening to NHK radio to practice business Japanese. That brings me on to the next topic of speed. When you're a beginner, it's really good to listen to people who speak at a slower pace. For the more advanced you become, or the more advanced that I became, I started listening to Japanese rap music, I started listening to fast talkers.
私、大正美26歳。ずっと一度羊喫茶に行ってみたいなっていう夢を密かに抱いていたんですけれども、なかなか自分一人で行く勇気もなく。
Watching YouTube videos on 1.25 times the speed.
あなたがストレートだったとして、幼い頃に周りが同性愛ばっかりだったらどう思います？自分はおかしいんかなってきっと思うはずなんですよ。
To really force myself to pay attention. The faster the listening material, the less time you have to zone out. Exam, there's no pausing, there's no rewinding, there's no slowing down. You have to answer the question and move on. So if you can train your ears to listen to things at faster speeds before the exam, you'll find anything slower even a little bit easier. That being said, if you have good time management and you have to prepare for the exam, you can slow down and chill out with some slow life living videos or family vlogs or ballads. Another way that I trained my ears was to listen to people in different environments and people speaking at different volumes. The more background noise there is, the harder it is to hear the speaker, which challenges you to focus more. For example, being in a crowded bar, being in a loud nightclub, being in a quiet library, it being summer and having the cicadas be cicadas, really. The next category is accents and age. I lived in Kyoto, in Kansai, and so I was used to listening to Kansai Ben, nande ne, seana toka. But the exam wouldn't be in Kansai Ben, so I had to find more listening material from people from Tokyo. I would listen to, for example, a group of drunk salarymen.
高いワインもあれば安いワインもある。美味しいワインもあれば美味しくないワインもある。世界にはいいやつもいれば悪いやつもいるよ。でもな、みんなまとめて人間じゃねえかよ。
Which would sound very different to listening to my Japanese students who used a lot more slang, to talking to gay Japanese friends who spoke a little bit faster and with a certain twang. Different groups of people speak a little bit differently, and the more groups of people you listen to, the better your listening skill becomes, and it's also great to have diversity. Moving on to age, very young Japanese children would speak a type of Japanese that I'm sure only a mother could understand, and so it would stress me out that I couldn't understand a 4-year-old asking me a question. So that was definitely something to practice. You can practice listening to little children babble in family vlogs. That was more to improve my overall listening and for a challenge. Again, the harder you make things, the easier everything else becomes. Moving on to slightly more exam-based techniques, one of the things that I did was create a balance between pushing through and working through. So the exam is very long and very intense, and it's more important to be able to focus for a long period of time, and the listening section comes after the reading and the vocabulary section, so your brain is already tired. One of the things that I tried to do was push through. I would watch videos all the way through without pausing to try and stay focused. I would listen to NHK radio and restart the whole segment if I lost focus, and sometimes that was incredibly stressful, and it's really important to avoid burnout. Sometimes I would work through things, so as I go I would be looking up words. Sometimes I would push through and then go back and work through it. So these next techniques I personally didn't do, but you can feel free to implement them into your study routine. The first pair, we'll say, is repetition and shadowing. That would test your memory. Someone says something, you listen to it, maybe they say 2 sentences, maybe they say 3 sentences, and then you would repeat. Shadowing is in real time, so as they are speaking, you are either reading a transcript and speaking along with them. Next pair is remembering and summarizing. So being able to summarize a piece that you heard means that you remember what you heard and you understand what you heard. In the exam, closer to the end, there are longer pieces of dialogue. However, you can also make notes in the exam in the listening section. So I personally didn't see much use in being able to summarize for the exam specifically. Speaking of notes, I wrote my notes in both English and hiragana. I don't mess with kanji, specifically because writing kanji by hand is very different to writing kanji on your phone, and you might think you know how to write one and then you do it by hand and you're like, you won't get much time to reread your notes after the dialogue has ended. So in my opinion, there's no point in writing a lot of notes. Stick to words and short phrases. So that's what I did to get a perfect listening score in the JLPT N2 exam. I hope that was helpful for you. I hope that you can use these techniques to improve your overall listening skills, as well as improve the chances of you getting a nice score. So I helped you with listening. If someone can help me with reading, that would be great. I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much for watching. Je vous apprécie. この動画が良かったらグッドボタン、高評価、구독해주세요. 谢谢哦. Bye.